Hello again. It is episode, cut you off there, 57.
Yeah.
Twinsies podcast. And let's talk about this new space that you see us in. All 11 YouTube viewers.
Yeah. We're in a new spot that right now looks very sterile and like a hospital, but we're not in a hospital.
No, we're in our upstairs loft construction area. We have an unfinished loft here at Warbird. It's like a second floor thing, and it's cool. Unfortunately, our batting cage wires kind of run across it.
Also, we're not supposed to use it for anything.
We're not supposed to use it. The town saith.
The town saith.
But there's this weird office up here that was really gross, and we've painted it thanks to Eli and Matt. Shout out to you guys. And put some sound blankets on the walls. And we're in the process of continuing our renovation, but this is our first episode.
We were just too excited. We couldn't not use it, despite the fact that it's not quite done. We need a cooler table, and we need stuff on the walls to make it look less gross. But outside of that, it doesn't smell like dust and dog, which it did before.
Yeah.
Because there's a rug on the ground beneath our feet. Got
a nice rug. But in that Facebook Marketplace ad, didn't you say it was like new?
Yeah.
There's like this really nice old couple, but they lied to us. Like
they lied.
It really reeks of dog. It's like, come on, don't say it's new.
Yeah, it smells like dog.
Your dog's been running around just doing cartwheels on it for a year, probably.
Yeah, although dog cartwheels. Because I think in the ad it said like, oh, this rug didn't fit in the space that we wanted it to fit in. So that kind of like led me to believe that it wasn't being used, but it's clearly been used.
It was clearly used, yeah. And if it had not been a huge rolled up rug that I just stuffed in my car with the help of the guy, I probably would have like smelled it out.
Yeah.
Like in the non-literal sense, but like it immediately didn't smell great.
In the literal sense too.
Yeah.
But the price was right, you know.
There's a couple grifters out there, a couple 68-year-old grifters out there.
Yeah, you guys got to be...
Morton, Illinois.
Be wary.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited that we have like a spot where we don't have to reconstruct and deconstruct our podcast setup every week. Because we were living the podcast nomad life for a while. Now we have a home.
Yeah, we have a home with our... with our knobless,
our very thoroughly knob.
Yeah, you can see our mixer here on the stream here, and it's got a lot of knobs, and we use almost none of them. So if you
does anyone know what these knobs do?
There's gain increases
right. There's gain,
loudness.
But look at all these. There's a black one. There's a red one. There's 3 blue ones.
It does a bunch of channels. Yeah, I don't know, but we use basically none of them. We just plug stuff in, and then it goes into the. We're also filming this on a camera today on my Lumix new Panasonic camera, and it has does great video. So if you're gonna watch this,
yeah, so you can see all of our imperfections.
Look at our boring white table,
ultra high def.
Yeah, you can probably see all the how dirty this table is.
Jeez.
We have a really nice table coming.
Yeah.
Our good friend Rob is stitching 2 big pieces of oak together for us into an L shape.
Gotta love oak.
Yeah, Rob's the man. Rob, if you're listening, you're the man.
Yeah.
So gotta have a moderate investment in a table. I'm not like Ben Carson, like $50,000 table or whatever.
What is this reference
like
to?
A scandal when he was elected recently to his office.
Oh, and got like
Trump, and bought like $50,000 worth of renovations. So like 2 chairs and a table.
Yeah, it's
I don't know. I don't spend that much money on a table.
I don't know why I just thought of this. We don't have to talk about this right now, but do you know in all of your recent research into like online sales and all that kind of stuff, have you run across Ty Lopez?
Yeah, all that mentor box nonsense.
Yeah. So what's his deal? Is he like a fraud?
I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that
because I read
they spin a nice looking web and a shiny veneer, and I don't know that you can know what they.
Here's the reason. Here's my train of thought. So you said like Ben Carson bought that like extravagant table, and then Ty Lopez is known for his like videos where he's standing in front of like Lamborghinis and like a giant mansion. And then there was a Reddit thread that I read a long time ago where apparently that was all like completely debunked, and like he like there was a Lamborghini he rented this like the house he allegedly like filmed in. He like did like a tour of like, oh, this is my crib, and someone went and found that same mansion is like a mansion that you can rent for like parties and stuff.
I think I've heard that actually. Yeah.
So I had just kind of like written him off as like internet fraud number 5,956, but then I was listening to this podcast recently. Actually, it was a Jay Ferrugia podcast. And this guy said that he was like this guy from Australia who like he was a reporter for ESPN, and then he like stopped doing that, and he tried to sell something, and he was bad at it. So then he did interviews. He did like movie interviews for this like really like this publication that was no one knew about. But he interviewed like celebrities, so like that was kind of a cool job. And then he tried to sell some stuff, and he sucked at it. So then he got like addicted to crack or something. But anyway, he bounced back, and then he was a reporter for ESPN. I might be mixing up my podcast, but he came back and he was a reporter for ESPN, and he covered like soccer. And then he went back and tried to do internet sales, and he came up with this like 30 days, no alcohol, like be clean for 30 days or whatever. So he has this like product, and he's trying to sell it. And he said that when he ran into Tai Lopez, his like life changed, because he paid $25,000 for a mentorship program with Tai Lopez, and apparently Tai's deal was like, if you don't make $25,000 in your first like so many months, I'll give you your $25,000 back or something. But he credited this like mentorship program with his success, because apparently he's successful now. I didn't look into him. And I was like, oh, well, maybe this guy's like the real deal. But then it came out later in the podcast that he like works for Tai Lopez. So he like sells Tai Lopez's stuff. So I'm like, oh, but maybe this is all just a giant scheme. So I was just curious if you had run into him at all, if you'd looked at any of his stuff.
I have not really. I think there's a lot of sales stuff on the web, and it's hard to know who's legit and who's not. And because a lot of them will just put you right on a squeeze right away, where it's like, hey, you've never heard of me, but guess what? Dooba-dooba-doo.
Well, that's what, like,
it's like, I don't know you, I'm scared.
Yeah, that's how I first ran into Mr. Lopez. It was like his ads pop up in front of a YouTube video, and it's like, he just comes off as so cringy, where he's like, this is me in my garage with my 2 Lamborghinis, but you know what? And he's like holding the camera. He's like, this is me in front of my Lamborghinis, but hey, I don't care about these. I care about these. And he like pans over, and there's like a wall of books. He's like, I love books, and I read a million books.
I've seen that thing,
and it's just like, oh God, this guy's the worst. But apparently he's out there selling mentorship programs for $25,000 a pop. That's ridiculous.
So saith. I don't know.
Saith, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. The power of like money back guarantees is important. Like on my online courses that I sell, like I have that, and I stand by it. And you want people to think that, okay, I can like take a chance, and this is hopefully worth it. And I either make, if it's something where it's going to make you money, you at least make that amount of money back that you spent, and then some. Or if not, you can just get your money back. So,
and that's what
I get that
part of the sentiment of that podcast. At least what that guy was trying to say was, when you're out there trying to do a thing. So he was trying to do internet sales. He was like, you can try to figure it out yourself. You can like toil and do it on your own, or you can pay someone to like mentor you and pay someone to do it. And he's like, and that's the way that it worked for me. He's like, so I'm a big proponent of, pay money to make money, and that you have to like pay someone who's been there before, done it before, and then you'll like fast track yourself. And I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense, but it's also like really dangerous way to go about it too. Because the other podcast I listened to was about these like internet scammers who are like, they're scamming old people, because they'll like call on the phone and be like, oh, you have, $50,000 in savings, and you want to pay for your grandchildren's college education. Well, we can help you do that with this, investment opportunity. And it's just
I think it depends on the product, because like a course or a book, like those things are exactly designed to do that, which is to teach you, like you spent years accumulating all your strength coach knowledge. Mm-hmm. You can package it up into a course and teach it to me without me having to do it to take 5 years to learn it all. Yeah. Like, that's the value. But at the same time, I think where the line gets drawn is where it's like a get rich quick scheme, and it's like, this is going to eliminate hard work. Where one of my guys that I really like listening to is Gary Vaynerchuk, and he
kind of talks like this.
He'll go on big rants, and I've listened to a bunch of his rants about this. He's like, there are not as many people on the internet making a killing that you think, and they're like, he's like, there's definite fraud. People like running in front of a private jet, taking photos and acting like they're doing. He's like, no one that it doesn't matter how wealthy they are. No one that who's successful has gotten there without a lot of hard work and a long time doing it. And I think that's completely true. So if like you're trying to sell me a $20,000 thing so that I can like get rich quick and like not have to work that hard to do it, like that to me is a big red flag. And who knows if that's, but if it's like, hey, I can sell you this thing and you'll learn this skill faster. Like, I do agree to that because I know for a fact, and this is where I talked about this last night on my own podcast. I'm like a year into all the course stuff I've been doing, my website revamp and all these other things. And I just bought new audio and video equipment. I've done like all this other stuff. I can do the stuff that would take me a week last year. It takes me like a day or two now. Like I'm way better at it. I know what not to do. I know what I should do. I have all the right software tools. I have all the right editing tools. Like I've gone through so much stuff and wasted tons of time in the last year. Whereas if like I could potentially package that up for someone who wanted to like make one, and there's tons of people that do this. And like, hey, don't waste month. Like imagine how much of your time is. Well, you put a value on your time and say, okay, if you do this, you'll go for 12 months, and you'll probably waste 3 months of like figuring stuff out of like what the most efficient way to do it is, or pay me a certain amount of money, and I'll just be like, look, do it all this way. Don't do this because this will waste your time. Don't do this; it'll waste your time. This is the best software. This is the best camera to buy. This is the best this. People do that stuff, and I think there's value. It just depends on if that's where you are and you're ready to like take the plunge. Because I know with some of the social media stuff, I've been closer. With some of the speaking stuff, I've been closer to pulling the trigger on something that'll save me time. Like if I can, there's a bunch of courses on Pinterest, for example, and I have a Pinterest account that they'll be like, hey, I'll teach you for $300 how to be amazing at Pinterest, get a ton of followers, get a ton of website traffic. And I'm like, I like not quite there on that price point, but if it was like $100, I'd absolutely do it. But at some point where it just, again, depends on the, like, if it's really that valuable to you. But I know for a fact I wasted a lot of time on every social media platform trying to figure it out and the best way to do it. And if someone had sold me their strategies and just like a quick overview so I didn't have to waste all that time, it was definitely value there. But it's never going to eliminate hard work. It's just going to teach you the right ways to do it without wasting time so you can work harder and more efficiently. And
I'm blanking on the name right now, but you definitely just reminded me, we're going down a tangent now, but you reminded me of, what's the name of that? She's that Australian woman who, I think it's called like the Big Booty Workout. I was just talking with Kayla about it.
Kayla Itzines.
Is that her name?
Wait, so the bikini body workout, that thing?
I don't know. I can't remember. But anyway, long story short, we just had a Warbird client, a long-time Warbird client from a couple years ago kind of come back and looking to like get back into the gym and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, she had this workout and she's like, you know, she paid for this like at-home workout. It's a little PDF. I think it gives you like maybe 12 or 16 weeks of programming, something like that. She's like, can you take a look at this and let me know if it's worth doing? And so, you know, I pop open this PDF and I just kind of scroll down immediately because there's like, you know, explanation on all the terms and stuff. So I just scroll down to the workout plan, and the workout plan is good in that there's nothing stupid included, but it's just like the most basic workout program you can ever design, where it's, you know, your dumbbell RDL and your lunges and your core, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, this workout's fine. Like if you just bust your tail with this workout, it'll be fine. And I was like, man, this is literally a program, and I'm not trying to knock it, but a program that a strength intern could write, like a exercise science student could write, but it was just so well packaged because it's, you know, it comes in this PDF and it's like designed pretty well. It's like pink and whatever, and it's designed. I can't remember the name, but it's marketed as like your booty workout, your big booty workout, and it's like just, I'm sure they just are just crushing it. I'm sure because the price point's really low. I think it was like there was like a $40 and an $80 option, I want to say, and it's just you just get emailed the PDF. So once you make the upfront like product, you're done. Yeah. And I'm sure there's like some mild support or whatever, but just like you said, it just says like market it well or like have to like develop a niche, and it's like that thing blew up. I'm like, man, this is like, it takes a minimal amount of knowledge, but the bigger piece is the I'm sure they kill it with social media and the marketing component.
Yeah, I think social proof, especially on the interwebs, goes a long way. I know a lot of those, you've seen just tons of before and after photos on these workouts and all that stuff, and people go, ooh, I should try that. And that's kind of like going to like the workout jumpers, and there's a million people who just want to do the next big thing.
But that's the in my mind, what's almost like one of the most brilliant parts about it is they grab those people. They grab the people that are program hoppers, and they they put down their credit card for $80 and they do that workout for 4 weeks and then they go try something else. But at that point, you've already made your money. And it's like, I think there's only maybe 12 or 16 weeks of programming included in that thing. But how many people make it through? Exactly.
Yeah,
they're not looking for the next 16 weeks. They're like, no. They do 10 weeks and they're like, I'm done. So it's kind of fascinating. But
yeah, and I think the simplicity, as we've figured out, is often the way to go. You try to make like the world's best program, knowing that like most people, the harder it feels like to figure it out and to do it, the less likely people are to do it anyway. So almost like just making it more simple than you'd think. And that's like this is like beneath my expertise. Like you said, like a strength intern could write this. Like, is this really what I want my name on? But there's like power and simplicity and ease.
Right.
Started.
And I just think it just like running through the clients in our head. And I know we get better at this every year, but just like it's more and more just becoming about how do I get this person to be compliant? And like, so you give them like their medicine in terms of like these 2 or 3 exercises that you have to do with things that are you like to do or like get you excited. And like you said, more often than not, it's simplistic. And I think about the number of clients we have where we have to like program at a higher level. And before they get to that point is so long. Like I think of somebody like Nick, like writing programs for Nick is challenging and fun because he's been with us forever and he's very competent. So you have to write programs that aren't boring. Like he's going to get bored doing, things X, Y, and Z that most of our other clients do.
Yeah,
but before
I hate X. Y?
Yeah.
It's so boring.
But before they get that point, they're just, that takes so long to get to that point. Okay. We had initially started out this podcast talking about Halloween.
Yeah.
Or wanted to start talking about Halloween.
Yeah. So let's go into Halloween. It's Halloween season.
'Tis Halloween season. We're recording this on October 16th. Would you like me to tell you about
I don't want to talk about Halloween. I hate Halloween.
Okay.
It's a disappointment as a child.
Well, okay, I'm curious why. I like Halloween for a couple of reasons. Number one, I like fall, and Halloween is the you can make an argument for Thanksgiving, but I was going to say it is the holiday of the fall. But when I was little, I really, really liked Universal monster movies. So
what does that mean to Universal?
Universal's the movie production company. Oh. And so Universal came out with a bunch of different monster movies. The Invisible Man, A Creature from the Black Lagoon, Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein. And they're like old black and white movies from like the 40s. And I just thought they were, I don't know why, but I thought they were really cool. And so around Halloween time every year,
I feel like you thought wrong. Yeah. But anyway.
I don't know. I was a weird kid. I also, as a kid, would watch a lot of Abbott and Costello, which if you know what that is, you're probably like, what in the hell? But it was just like this old comedy duo from like, I don't know, it had to have been the 40s or the 30s. The Who's on First guys. Anyway.
Halloween, guys. Yeah. Get your ghouls and your fright
the spookums. And so, I would just watch those movies with my mom around Halloween season and got a good, and like our little podunk town did like a bunch of Halloween activities. There was like a Halloween costume contest and a Halloween parade and all that kind of stuff. So I had very positive associations with it as a young lad, which carried up through a while. But then when you get older, Halloween changes quite a bit. There's like this weird, so there's like little kid Halloween, then there's like high school kid Halloween, and there's like adult Halloween. And so like in high school, we'd go
I would say there's an intermediate, there's not quite just adult, there's college Halloween for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Which all the guys kind of, I don't know, they do whatever, all the women kind of dress scantily.
Yeah.
To put it
mildly.
Yeah. And then there's adult Halloween where I think the women stopped doing that, where they've kind of, I don't know if
aged out of it.
Yeah, aged out of it is a good way to put it. But yeah, so the 4 phases.
The 4 phases of Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe the 5th phase where when you're old, you just become a ghoul. Your skin's melting and, you know. I can say that knowing that I'll be old one day and my skin will melt and I'll be a ghoul too. It's fine.
Oh, you're saying that you have no choice but to go as a ghoul when you're older?
You're just old and ghastly. What do you do?
You're like, oh, are you dressed as a corpse? Like, no.
No. It's just my face.
It's just me.
My eyelids are just drooping into my mouth.
Yeah, that's the 5th phase of Halloween. But yeah, so I don't know. I have this...
Not to mention like the transparent skin. You basically become a ghost before you actually become a ghost.
Yeah.
It's a very natural order of things.
Anyway, so yeah, we're kind of in that weird transition phase. We're not quite ghouls yet, but I don't know that either of us get super jacked up about Halloween anymore. Plus, you just like reach a point where no one dresses up. No one dresses up for Halloween anymore. It's too much work. Although I did think about, I think I might go as Stone Cold Steve Austin at some point. Do the cutoff jean shorts, shave my goatee, but I haven't decided yet. That might sound like a lot of work. But anyway, yeah, so I don't mind Halloween. I was never a big trick-or-treater, but everything else about Halloween I like. You don't like it?
Yeah, I think it was because I always wanted... I like had this vision for my costume.
Halloween.
Yeah, and like in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be this crazy cool ninja, and I'm like imagining myself as like a real ninja, and then I'm just like this idiot in
a black hooded sweatshirt.
Yeah. This felt very disappointing, and then... I don't know, like the candy and all was great. Like they're good Halloween memories. I just stopped having enthusiasm for dressing up because it just never went to plan. And I also didn't want to put the effort into like when you have this idea like, oh, what I'm gonna be this crazy cool ninja. Like you imagine yourself as like the modern Batman or something.
It's
hard to get to like those costumes in Halloween are crazy. Like you can't replicate that at home. And these people. Like God bless you, the people that have these amazing costumes. It's a lot of work. So pat yourself on the back. Like the kid in me understands how hard it is to look really great on Halloween. So kudos to you if you're good at Halloween. But I just never was, and just kind of I don't know.
I can't get the image of you out of my head where you're just like Dan at like 10 years old. Yeah, like looking into the bathroom mirror as like tears soak your ninja mask.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Just like a black bandana over your mouth. And you're like, I don't look anything like Scorpion.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think I stopped like consistently doing it maybe 13, 14. I'm not really sure.
I'm trying to
What's
think.
The normal age.
I don't even.
I don't know. I feel like I was a little bit earlier than other people. I stopped.
I can't even remember like what any of my Halloween costumes were. Like I know one year, because mine always sucked as well. I remember one year I did nothing other than I had blue jeans on and a red hooded sweatshirt, and I put a soccer ball on top of my head, and then I put the hood up over the soccer ball and then zipped the thing up over my face so it looked like I had a soccer ball head. And I thought that was good enough to be a Halloween costume. And then outside of that, I don't remember. Like when I was really little, I remember I was a mouse, but I don't think I did a lot of dressing up. For that reason, it does take a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. You got to really plan it, and
That's
you got to get ahead of it. You can't really procrastinate.
You got to get ahead of it.
If you procrastinate, you just like, oh, I need to. I can't even. It's hard to throw together a good-looking Halloween costume.
Right, like, oh, I need a sword, and then you just grab some tinfoil and squeeze it so it's like a little stick.
Yeah, you can only do so well going to Goodwill or Salvation Army or whatever. And
I think that's the biggest thing is if you're looking at dressing up for Halloween, you got to start now. It's already too late.
Yeah.
But aren't you a big fan of November 1st when you can get your cheap candy?
Yeah, I do like candy. I mean, diabetes is in my crosshairs. That's what I'm going for, I guess. And I continue to not. We've had this conversation before, and I feel like we're far enough along, or I don't know the statute of limitations before we just start repeating ourselves and just like basically duplicating the same podcast.
Episode 57 marks
it's episode 2. But I don't know why malted things exist, like malted milk balls. Let's just as a country, as a planet, let's just gather them all up and make their own special landfill for them. I think that's probably the best use of them. There's just so many trash candies. Like,
we could use them for something. We could use them as like raccoon bait or something.
Necco wafers. Why do those exist?
Yeah, those are not great.
Same as Neapolitan ice cream, which I forgot to mention. I was in the grocery store. I was looking through Turkey Hill. So if you're out there and you appreciate Turkey Hill ice cream like I do, so if you're on the East Coast, I'm sure you do. Turkey Hill is from Lancaster, PA, and it's like a slightly softer ice cream. It's still a completely normal ice cream, but it's just like kind of softer. They make amazing mint chocolate chip that's got little like shavings. It's like riddled with shavings. Riddled is probably
riddled with shavings.
It's a weird way of putting it, but
yeah,
it's got shavings in it as opposed to like those stupid. If you're a company, if any ice cream companies, any ice cream,
I'm sure there are
executives are listening, and you put chocolate chips in your mint chocolate chip ice cream, I hate you. That's just like the worst decision your company's ever made. it needs to be a shaving.
Yeah.
At the very least, like a little flat, whatever you call those little flat bars almost. Like little flat things.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's too big to be...
It's a little less abrasive than a chunk.
Yeah, a chunk of, like a legit chunk of chocolate, like a chocolate
Especially
chip.
frozen.
Yeah, frozen is not good. You're just like, hang your ice cream. Anyway, Turkey Hill, they have it at Kroger here out in the Midwest, and they had a bunch of different types of Triopolitan. It was 3 different types of ice cream. It was like, but they were like flavors that weren't stupid, that made sense. So one was like caramel ice cream and mint chocolate chip and like chocolate in the same thing. I'm like, if I could take a scoop and go through all 3 and it like makes sense, then I can like thumbs up that. Chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, absolutely you can't do that. But they had made 3 or 4 flavors of just like 3 flavors in the thing that all complemented each other, which I have no problem with. So kudos to Turkey Hill for not being terrible.
Yeah, if I could get like a chocolate chunk, like a moose track, and then like a peanut butter cup, and then like name another one.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Because,
again, I mean, the core issue was that strawberry ice cream sucks and no one buys it. Like, I actually like it, but let's not go down this road again.
Welcome to the ice cream cast.
But I thought that was interesting. Anyway.
A couple things. Number one,
I'm just gonna give kids a scoop of. I'm gonna give kids trick or treat. If they're not scary or their uniform stinks, I'm gonna give them a big scoop of Neapolitan ice cream. Just put it in their bag.
Put it in their bag. They're just like staring down.
Yeah, and they could eat it right then, and it ruins their night, or they could wait later and it ruins all their.
Or you just have them hold out their hand and just slap it in their hand.
Yeah, either way, this scoop is gonna ruin your night. You're gonna remember my house forever.
Yeah. What? It's ice cream, kid. You don't like ice cream? Okay, so 2 things. Number one, I literally looked up we were discussing camera issues before the podcast, and I Googled one camera phrase, and I'm already getting ads for cameras on my computer. Which is
Google's
insane.
in this room right now.
Google's in here right now. There's gonna be an ad for ice cream that pops up here in a second.
Jeff Bezos he's crouching up in the corner of our shelves. He's watching us. He's got a camcorder.
You need a camera? But I didn't watch the game last night. I just looked 4-0. Did you watch the game last night?
No, I didn't get a chance. I walked to work, so I walked home, and I got home around 8:15. So,
do you have a preference of who wins the World Series?
I hate the Brewers uniforms. I hate their logo.
The little glove.
As I watch them, well, just like they're like the way it's stroked. I don't know how you'd say it, but I don't like the M. I just like not that this has any, but when you don't care about either team at all.
You start looking for
things to care about. I just hate their uniforms. I know if I played for their team and I had to wear the Brewers uniform, I'd be sad. I'd be like, I'm a major leaguer, but this is what I look like. It's like kind of sad.
Who has the best? Well, Houston's uniforms are okay.
Well, I'll say this: I like the Brewers, like the old school mitt that they use. The M, I think, is terrible. I think
the M of the script Milwaukee.
Yeah, I despise it.
Yeah. But you do like this logo, the glove logo.
The hat, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I like the glove logo.
The mitt thing with the ball in the center, the old school one.
Yeah, that one's good.
But in general, I watch them and I just don't like how they look.
You gotta like how you look.
But I don't want the Dodgers to win because they spent $60 billion on their team.
I like the Dodgers, and they've got like a bunch of players I don't like, and then they always choke, so I kind of just want them to keep choking. But I like Houston and I like Boston, so I wouldn't mind either of those teams taking it.
Those two.
Who has the best uniform of the 4 teams left?
Oh, is that what this has become? That's what this has become? I don't know.
If nostalgia doesn't play a role.
Yeah, it's hard because they're all very different, right? Yeah. The Brewers, they just haven't updated. They're just stuck in the past. They're probably waiting to win so they can get money to buy better uniforms. The Dodgers, I like the Dodgers. I don't like their
classic. I
don't like their hat logo. My brain sees IA, and since I was a little kid, I'm like, why does it say IA on their hat? I just can't see the L. Mm-hmm. I just can't. But I like their white and blue. I think it's a clean, classic, good-looking uniform.
I can't see their logo right now, but I guarantee it's going to be one of those things. If you've ever seen when someone points out the arrow in the FedEx logo, and then you can't ever see anything other than the arrow, it's I'm sure the IA thing. Because I've always seen LA, but now that you said that, I'll probably only be able to say I'll be like, is this the Iowa Dodgers?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'll have to look at that.
I like the Red Sox uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
I like they're classic. I like they don't have the names on the back. I think that's a classy sort of move. Not that it's not classy to have your names on the back, but there's something I appreciate about like the thing it says about a team. Like that's why we don't have names
Mm-hmm.
on the back of our jerseys. It's kind of like team before for player, but I like the Red Sox uniforms, and I think the Astros main logo is horrifically ugly.
I don't remember what that
I think
is.
their uniforms look fine, but that like home plate or that star and like the orange and it's terrible. Yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah.
Those looks awful. That circle logo with the orange star and
I
the
feel like
white
they could have
H.
done something a lot cooler than that, but
It looks really bad. Do you remember? I sent this to you, I think, a while ago. Yeah, I don't know. I don't mind the Astros uniforms, but I don't like them. So I think I'm gonna give it to the Red Sox here.
Mm-hmm.
That's my pick. Mm-hmm. Maybe the Brewers. Maybe if you're out there, maybe you can. If you're the ice cream company VP, you can sponsor the Brewers and buy them better shirts. I don't know.
yeah, they just need to take better advantage of their glove logo.
It's like they have too many stripes. Like there's like a million stripes on their sleeves, and then like it's just I don't know. There's something about it that's aesthetically unpleasing to me.
Yeah, I don't like the script Milwaukee. That's the only thing I don't like. If they would fancy that up, it'd be good. It'd be better. But I had the same conversation about this last weekend. I was watching some football games with a couple of buddies, and kind of simultaneously on two screens was University of Oregon and Penn State, who are like polar opposites in terms of uniform design. Like Penn State has been just like the classic navy and white and only navy and white without like really logos or anything for the longest time. And then you have University of Oregon who comes out with something crazy like every year.
Yeah,
something
like their jerseys they're like on fire.
Yeah, how loud.
Projecting holograms off their jerseys.
And they were in that this last weekend. They were in their all neon yellow, so head to toe neon yellow with like silver duck feathers on their helmets. And I was just like, goo, that's just a bit much. And when you compare that, when you contrast that with Penn State, it's just like I tend to be on that side, the classic side, rather than the super crazy. Which is there an MLB team? I guess the Miami Marlins are kind of loud in terms of like crazy uniform designs. They haven't really cracked that in the MLB yet.
No, I think it's definitely going to take off now that Under Armour's taken over the rights to all the jerseys.
Oh, really? I forgot about that. Is that
It's got to be coming up soon because it was a couple years ago.
So is it Majestic still right now?
Yeah, and then Majestic's going to go out of business as soon as that contract's over because it's like literally all their business.
Yeah.
But Under Armour's taken over. I want to say it's like 2020, but I don't quote me on it.
That's
it was
exciting.
only a couple years ago, and it was like 3 to 4 years ahead. So it's getting closer, I think.
Yeah, I'd be fine with uniforms getting mixed up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wonder how much team control. Like the player names thing, the Players Weekend. For the same 2 years in a row, they did that just awful like different color sleeve design. So if you're Mariners, it was like the teal sleeves and the navy body. I thought it was just and like the V-neck, and I don't think it was like kind of vintagey, but just like really ugly. They were just awful. Like I don't know why, like who okayed that choice for Players Weekend, because when you have like a contrasting sleeve, like I'm big into the raglan look. Like I'm wearing a raglan 3/4. I think this looks infinitely better than chopping it off at the like vertically at the armpit. And I'm all for mixing it up, but they did that 2 years in a row, the same exact Players Weekend jerseys, and I thought they were just. Is there not like a blind survey? Like they asked people, like, "Hey, how ugly was this?" And everyone's like, "Oh, it was really ugly." Because I just feel like it was just objectively really ugly.
Who was the? I'm trying to remember the. What's that like? It's like a U.S. juniors game or something. And this year they did. What they do? Like everybody was wearing backwards hats, and didn't they do? They did something crazy with their uniforms. Like they had sleeveless uniforms or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I vaguely remember. Yeah, I don't remember what that was.
But you wonder what the governing body is that makes those calls. That like that Players Weekend thing and I wish I could remember what the heck that was, but they did something egregious where I was like, "Ugh, that's not great." I can't remember. I know like a lot of kids had their hats backwards, and I want to say that they had like cut off sleeves or something. But anyway,
Perfect Game is really edgy. Like the Perfect Game, like the big events where they have all like the really high prospects that kind of go there and like play for free, and they get like all outfitted by Perfect Game. those are really like edgy. A lot of neon, a lot of just like weird colors, and like I appreciate that. Like they look interesting. I'm not saying I like them. Oftentimes I don't, but they
there's something to be said for
there's nothing wrong with blurring the lines, but
right.
I don't know. I just like the way the MLB went backwards with like the Players Weekend, that they were just ugly. I don't know.
I have to look those up because I don't really remember.
Yeah, if you just Google Players Weekend, you'll find them. They're just they're terrible. Because it was a really cool idea, and I appreciate what they were doing, but they just dropped the ball.
Yeah.
A triple stripe, triple stroked V-neck with the chopped off sleeves.
Aren't you the one that hates the Arizona Diamondbacks uniforms?
For the most part, yeah.
Because they had those like weird like gray.
Why do they have the weird blue? It's like that weird like that kind of glowing light blue.
Oh, that like teal, that like neon turquoise almost.
Yeah, they're a team that's edgy. They had that like red flowing up from the ankles.
Mm-hmm.
On their white pants, and they have the red kind of dripping. Like they're definitely probably on the cutting edge in the big leagues. But
their like charcoal gray uniforms aren't great. They're like charcoal gray pants.
I'm struggling to get on board with the charcoal gray.
Yeah,
I think it's getting more normal, and I think it's starting to look more aesthetically pleasing the more you get used to it.
This is hideous.
I'm still not into it. No, that Mariners jersey is just awful.
So it's teal with royal blue sleeves, and it just says Mariners in black letters.
Like the Ken Griffey Jr. like 1990s Mariners.
Not good.
Like why would anyone buy that?
Those colors don't go together. But that's like the thing is like clashy, gross colors.
I don't know. Like I said, I'd be fascinated to be a fly on the wall, to be a Jeff Bezos in the corner. Who is this panel of people making these like decisions? Because some person's like, "Yep, that's it. Yep, that's it. Yep." Like, are they all idiots? Are they all?
They have to do some sort of like
really young. Are they all really old? Like,
they have to do some sort of focus group, though, don't you think? Where they're like, "Hey."
Well, then I just have no faith in America. If America chose that, because it's
yet another reason to lose faith. But yeah, I don't know who's making those calls, but I would think it's. I bet your first was right that it's like these young kids at some ad agency who are like, "Oh, this would be cool," and then they just miss the mark completely. I don't know.
There's definitely a balance. Like college baseball is a lot more edgy, or just like, I don't know if it's forward or modern than pro baseball, but like, when you start to get like armpit cutouts, and we have, I think, really nice jerseys that are still like classic looking for our teams, with like little things. But when you start adding other colors to the armpits, other colors to the sides, just like a lot of other stuff, it just starts to look, I don't know. It'll like something busy. To be said for a really good, like, and this is what I appreciate about the Dodgers, just like the really good white uniform that is just sharp and
that's why like
well-defined.
The Cardinal logo or Cardinal uniform is like iconic for that, like that, just like that super bright white with just the boom, like the Cardinals on the front,
and even their creams. I really like the cream jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a cream or off,
we wanted to do that with ours, but we couldn't really find a. Yeah. Yeah,
they get expensive in a GIF.
GIF?
Yep. But I don't know. So let's talk about in the last little chunk here, new nutrition stuff that you have stumbled upon recently. Because I know you're big on nutrition. Mm-hmm. What's a couple things that you've learned recently, or discovered, or a person you've been listening to? What's like new on
my never-ending quest to learn more nutrition stuff? So most recently, I've been listening to a lot of two guys, Alan Aragon and Stan Efferding. And I've really kind of modeled my eating recently after listening to Stan Efferding, and kind of like basically, to give you a background from him, he was a bodybuilder and then he was a power lifter, and he's
enormous. He's terrifying.
He's enormous and he's terrifying, and I think he's still like he's an extremely strong bodybuilder, which usually if you're a bodybuilder, you're like not super duper strong, and if you're a power lifter, you don't look super like jacked. And he's both. And he's like the nutritionist for Hafthor Bjornsson and Brian Shaw, who are like the two most relevant strongmen left in the world. And he came up with this, I don't know if you called it, well, I guess you would call it a diet, called the vertical diet, which basically is sort of like establishing a base of variety of foods that offer, basically his thing is like eat foods that serve a direct purpose, so that are really efficient and provide you with something, right? So they provide you with some micronutrient is really what the horizontal part of the diet is. So that's like, and his big things are, is it nutrient dense? Is it highly bioavailable, meaning are the nutrients in it really easy to access, essentially? And what does it do to your gut health? So is it easy to digest? Does it make you feel bloated? Does it make you feel sick? And so he kind of takes, because ultimately his thing is he works with athletes that eat like a whole bunch of food. And so they can't be eating pizza because that makes you feel bloated and kind of gross. And if you're training Brian Shaw and you're trying to get 12,000 calories, you can't afford to give him a really big meal that makes him feel sick for a couple hours because he needs to eat again in those next couple hours. So his big thing is white rice and red meat, essentially. So steak and white rice. The ideas being, because everybody's like, oh, isn't white rice worse than brown rice? And the answer is no. Brown rice has some like phytic acids that aren't super great for you, but really the thing behind white rice is I
had a nightmare about phytic acids recently.
Oh, did you? Were they chasing you down the street?
Yeah.
And you didn't have any shoes on?
Yeah.
So
why'd your mind go there? I have any shoes on.
Because it's hard to run without shoes.
Yeah, just bloody footprints and they get torn up.
Yeah, you got phytic acids chasing you down. But white rice is highly bioavailable, so you can tap into the nutrients really fast, and it's pretty much just like it's really easy to digest. You can eat a lot of it. That's why, I mean, you eat Chinese food and you're hungry a couple hours later is because it's all white rice, so you churn through white rice really easily. And it's delicious, and you know me, I've been like all over the board in terms of I like to try a lot of different things, and I've appreciated how you can just make a whole bunch of white rice in the morning.
A whole mess
of it and just eat off it all day. So that's been convenient for my schedule these days. And then...
Wait. Have you been saying eat off your whole life? Or is that a new thing?
What did I just say?
You said you can eat off of it the whole day. That's a term that one of our kids, Drew, had said recently. Or maybe he said eat on it. It's like, yeah, you just... And then you can eat on it all day or something like that.
Oh, no, I say eat off of it.
Do people say that? And I don't know. I still don't have some of these Midwestern sayings. And that one just jumped out.
I don't know.
Is that new for you or is that...
I think I've said eat off of it before, but I've never said eat on it. Like, oh, yeah, you just been eat on it.
Just eating on it for a couple days.
Yeah. And then red meat, because of the sort of like micronutrient profile of red meat, where it has... a lot of good things like vitamin B12 and like creatine and all this stuff. So, like one of my favorite lines from him that I like to quote is because he'll get asked, well, why am I eating red meat instead of chicken? Which his big thing is like, eat what you want to eat what's sustainable. And he talks about good, better, best scenarios all the time. Best being red meat and then good still being chicken. But he's always says, have you ever seen a big chicken? Have you ever seen a big bull? And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, but it's interesting. And when you look into...
Does it mean we should eat sperm whales?
Maybe.
Blue whales? Let's get some torches and some boats.
But when you look at, chicken is really just protein, essentially. There's not a whole lot in it outside of... Unless you're doing thighs. Thighs has some fat in it. But I found it to be... Because this is ultimately, anytime we talk about nutrition, you talk about sustainability. Can you do it all a long time? Can you comply to it for a while? And it's worked well for me. And his other big thing that I've seen pop up several times in like all the different nutritionists I listen to, one of which is Dr. Stacy Sims. I like to listen to her. She's basically talks about the differences between male and female athletes, but both of them and several of in the athlete nutrition realm talk about the importance of sodium. So the upward limits of recommendation for sodium seem to keep going up. And so like for strong men, so like for crazy athletes who have a ton of energy output, they say, they see performance drops once they get under like 10 to 12 grams of sodium a day, which is a lot. A half a teaspoon of sodium is a gram. So, of salt. Sorry, I think I said sodium. Anyway, and so it just like, salting in my food. And this is the last thing I'll kind of wrap up with this is, so I've been increasing my sodium, increasing my white rice, and thus my carbohydrate intake, trying to increase my protein through, because I'm like, don't eat nearly enough for what I need to be eating. And so I've been increasing all this stuff, and I have felt infinitely better in the gym and infinitely better in terms of like I'm sleeping better, I have more energy throughout the day. Now, having said that, there's too many confounding variables where you can't say, oh, everyone in the world is going to feel better if they increase their salt intake, or everybody in the world is going to feel better if they increase their red meat intake. And I can't rule out placebo effect. So this is all anecdotal at this point, but it's worked well so far. But
the biggest, still doing your intermittent fasting thing?
Not really.
I feel like that, like obviously there are things I would like to do myself and things I would not like to do myself. And I just felt like, God, Lucas is just like kind of torturing himself. And granted, like I know you experiment with tons of diets. Mm-hmm. It just seemed like a little torturous. Like you just probably had more hours throughout the day, and you can speak to your experience, where you're just like kind of just had to like grit through life. And that was just kind of my take from it. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel like there weren't too many times where I wanted to eat really badly and I like starved myself or like prevented myself from eating. But having said that, looking back at, because I would say that I was pretty strict on my intermittent fasting for a while, like definitely more than 6 months, maybe somewhere between 6 months and a year. But looking back at sort of my intake, my nutritional intake, I just like wasn't getting enough. So I wasn't getting enough protein. Definitely wasn't getting enough calories, which I was getting enough to kind of just like stay where I was. But if I really wanted to get stronger in the gym, if I really wanted to get bigger, I just had something had to change. And now this winter, I'm kind of messing around with, okay, what if I actually hit my macronutrient goals? And in order to do that, so in order to get 250 grams of protein in a day, like that, just given my work schedule, that can't happen anymore. So I get up at 4:15 in the morning just so I can eat, 40 grams of protein and I don't really do carbs in the morning, but I'll do protein and fats. Just because, the other thing is I've been reading a lot more recently on how much your body can actually take advantage of in any one sitting. So, what you can't do is, let's say you need to get 250 grams of protein in a day. You can't, after your workout, crush 200 grams and be like, all right, I'm almost done, because your body's not going to take advantage of that. And what the research suggests is 20 to 40 grams of protein in a sitting is all that your body can really take advantage of. So that means if you're trying to get, let's say, 240 grams of protein in a day, that has to be throughout 6 meals, if you're doing the math. So that if let's say you have a cap of around 40 grams in a sitting, and so you look at it that way, that becomes...
I heard the opposite recently, and I think it was from Alan Aragon that he was saying that...
Well, we do a whole nother podcast on that.
I don't know, but go on.
Well, wait, we'll finish that thought. What was his
Well,
thought?
I think there are just some studies, and granted, you never know about the methodology of some of the studies, but he just said that they tracked how people took in different amounts of calories. So, like, one group was taking in equal meals for 3,000 calories, like 5 equal meals. Another group was taking in, 2 really large meals. One was doing like 3 meals, and one group was getting a huge dose after their workout. Another one was getting a huge, just different dosages, I think, and they didn't see any real significant differences after the study as far as body composition, and it just seemed like if you hit 3,000 calories with a certain macronutrient blend, then that was seemingly all that mattered. But again, I don't know. It seems like it's changed so much. I know from college, when I was eating all the small meals a day when that was the rage, it's like no one does that anymore.
Right. Well, and that's
3 meals. We had it right back in pioneer times.
And ultimately, I don't think there is all that much difference. And I still tell all my athletes all of our athletes that the 2 biggest numbers are total calories and protein. Because if you're like you whatever your given goal is, so if it's maintenance, you're trying to lose weight or gain weight. If you're hitting your caloric surplus or deficit, or you're somewhere around your energy expenditure, that's step number 1. And then step number 2, in my mind, is just like based on the research that has come out, whether you're trying to lose weight, trying to gain weight, that number that keeps popping up is a gram of protein per pound of body weight. And 0.8 to 1 gram. But if you're getting 1 gram, that's that's especially important for people who are in a caloric deficit to maintain lean mass. So then I had one more thing to say. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, but I'm just kidding. As a guy who's spent the last year getting 2 big meals a day, I just kind of change it up, see what happens if I do little ones throughout, which I haven't done for a while. And so Yeah, so that's kind of where I am now. There was another thing I wanted to say, but I can't remember what it was. So anyway, yeah.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just seems tough to sustain life as like a heavy intermittent faster. Now, for me, I'm eating less than I've ever eaten. Like the other day, I ate my first meal at like 3 because I just like wasn't hungry, and then I ate a really big meal, and that was like kind of it for the day. It's really weird. And I'm like, why am I not hungry before? And afterwards, I'm like, why am I not hungry again? I don't know. My body's been changing.
Yeah,
I think it's probably menopause.
Yeah,
I surmise, but
and I think there's a lot to be said for eating when you're hungry, and there's also a lot to be said for
it's great.
Well, and
that's what I say about it.
But then I would say that for people trying to lose weight, they do need to get better at managing their like hunger response. Where just because you're hungry doesn't mean you're going to die if you don't eat.
You don't.
And so that was one of the takeaways that I took from intermittent fasting, or like that 5-day fast that I did, or any of this fasting nonsense, is like you can make it through 24 hours without eating and you don't die. So it's like there's something to be said if you're 30 pounds heavier than you want to be. I'm not saying go out and starve yourself, but I'm saying you have more control over your hunger. Your hunger doesn't define you, Dan.
Yeah,
like,
no, for sure.
You like people getting like good at sort of managing that response, I think can be really beneficial.
Well, and it's kind of like the tone of our last podcast, which was about how when you get to like your mental or physical like wit's end in a workout, you could still keep going. And after our little fasting experiment, I only made it 2 days, they made it 5, Lucas and Todd, but that was still the take home message for me. It's like, well, I can just keep not eating and I'm fine. Like I'm not going to die. And then there's lots of those times. So like, say you haven't eaten for a long time, and it's like 7 o'clock and you work till 9, and you're just like counting down the hours. Like, I'm starving. As soon as you get done work, you're like, I'm sprinting home, or I'm sprinting to the nearest like Chipotle or fast food place or wherever to just like get food. Like I need food right away. But then for whatever reason, say like you just can't, or like something happens. I think I had this happen recently where I was just like starving. I'm like, all I want to do is eat. And then I had something that delayed me where I just like wasn't going to get to for like another hour and a half. Like I had to, I don't know what it was, but like I was fine. Like it wasn't that big a deal. Like a lot of times you just like, you get so hungry that I'm going to get fast food. I'm going to pay money for, maybe not fast food, like Chipotle is reasonably healthy depending on what you get, and like a lot of other places. But it's still like $8. Like it's getting more and more expensive, and for a person on a budget, you get very little. You get one meal for $8. You think about how much you can buy at the grocery store for $8, especially considering how much more relatively expensive healthy food is. Like for $8, you can get a lot of really good food. And when you start thinking like, do I really need to go there? Like, no, I can make it home, even though it's going to be another 30 minutes to then cook something, or even potentially longer. I can make it. And then you just like save money, and you end up getting a healthier option, and you get a healthier option for less money. And so that's a really important thing too. It's like, no, I can suck it up. I can make it home, even though I'm really hungry and I have not eaten and it's really late. I can make it home and make a healthier, cheaper meal for myself. And that's a big benefit. Because when you lose the willpower, you're like always eating out. It gets really, really convenient to just swoop into Chick-fil-A. And just there's both the health and the financial aspect of it. It just really adds up quick.
That's the other thing.
One meal for $8.
That's the other thing that I'm appreciating about the vertical diet right now is, I'm sure you can speak to this as well, but I just get my imagination for like making meals is not good. Like I don't want to sit and think like make a fresh thing to eat every day. So like for me, just turning my brain off and being like, I'm gonna eat white rice, carrots, spinach, and steak is great. Whereas coming up with new meals all the time, and I understand that I'm different than most in that I eat like a robot rather than like a human being. But
then again, I think most of the world eats that way.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of all these countries that are not as wealthy as America. Like you hear all these stories about Olympians in Africa. They eat the same food every day, and they run and run and run, and they train super hard. And you're like, wow, well, food means something completely different to him. Like, and we whine about having chicken for the third day in a week. Like, there's nothing wrong. It's just, again, it's your attitude about it and your mindset. Like, sure, food is an amazing human thing. Like
expression of
food's amazing, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with Monday through Thursday or something just being a robot. And I think it's what the healthiest people do for the most part.
Yeah.
And And that's okay. Like, I'm very okay eating mostly the same foods on a given week. Like, I'm really very okay with it.
Yeah. It's funny. That's a good point, because I know, just like anecdotally, one of the kids I train at Heartland is Brazilian, and he was kind of asking me, what should I eat? And I was like, well, if you want my advice, like, I like white rice because it's cheap. You can do a lot of it, like, blah, blah. And like, I was like, chicken and red meat are good. And he's like, you're describing Brazilian cuisine. Like, this is what I have all the time is white rice and chicken. And I was like, well, perfect. Keep doing what you're doing.
I could eat Dominican chicken. Like, when I was in Camden, there was a great Latin American restaurant right by the ballpark. All the Latin guys would have it every day, and the American guys were like,
yeah, what's that?
What was that? And you get this huge thing. You get a huge, like, grilled, seasoned chicken breast or chicken thigh and chopped up, and you get that amazing yellow rice with whatever's in it. Like, it looks like peas and beans and whatever, and a couple, like, yellow plantains. Like, I could literally eat that every day and never get tired of it. It was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh. I feel like I haven't sneezed on a podcast in a while, but I had 2 today. It's just
2 big sneezes.
Musty room. I'm allergic to Jeff Bezos in the corner.
Yeah.
He's got a strong
cologne on it. A very expensive cologne.
All right, well, I think that's it for this weekend.
All right, cool.
Thank you for joining us for another Twinsies podcast in stunning, sparkling, dazzling HD. The other ones were HD, but there's just... Again, as I'm learning, there's just like many grades of what HD means. So
high definition, higher definition, highest definition.
Check it out on the YouTube, bros.
All right, we'll see you next week.